And welcome everybody to Justice Served TV. I'm getting a reflection off my glasses. I hate that. We got so many good things to talk about today. I think you ought to stay right there.
Justice, where are you?
All right, if you haven't already seen it, Doug Weinstein, one of the attorneys in the YSL case, the attorney for Yak Gotti, we just had a fine conversation with him. That is up and out there, so go take a look at that.
Right. And we really probed him. And so if you, by the way, in the meantime, because he's trying to be on with us once a week, if you have questions you want us to ask him next time he's on, please send them to us at Justice Served TV. You can find us here or on our X Twitter page or, at our website. Just send them.
There you go. And likes, share, and subscribe. And yeah, we try to use some of those comments we get from folks when we're having, these conversations with Doug, but keep them coming. Okay, let's talk. We're going to get into YSL a little bit, but let's talk about Sarah Boone, shall we?
By the way, I'm Linda Kenny Bodden, and this is Michael Bryant.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what it says right there. I see that. Okay, set us up with the Sarah Boone. What's the deal here? Where are we?
Okay, so Sarah Boone, she's accused of a 2020 homicide of killing her boyfriend by trapping him in a suitcase. And there's a clip we played the other day when we have State Attorney Dave Arenberg on, where the boyfriend is pleading for his life and it's going, Sarah, Sarah. And she says, this is for what you've done to me, for all you've done to me is the actual quote. And of course, then she calls the police and they come and she gives a statement and she says it was an accident. And so therefore the police, they've got a dead body, they got her boyfriend, they got in her office, they got a statement that says it's an accident, but it certainly looks like murder since he zipped into a suitcase and he couldn't do that himself. And she is arrested. And so now she tried to get her statements omitted from the courtroom, from the trial, which is going to happen in a couple of weeks, on the basis that she wasn't given her Miranda rights, or that she was too traumatized, or she was too upset, or that the police lied to her and told her to come to the station to pick up her cell phone. So there was a hearing on that, Michael. What happened?
Yeah, well, the defense wanted to suppress one or some of these different interviews, the statements obtained, saying that they weren't consensual, it wasn't properly handled. So that went before the court. A little nugget here of info. You mentioned the suitcase and not being able to zip it, zip yourself in. On top of that practical issue, the actual zipper was broken. Not the zipper part, but the little tab. And they put, I think, like a paper clip on it and used that instead. But just makes it even more unlikely that somebody would be doing that themselves. Okay, so before we talk about what the court did with this, let's listen to just a touch of the interview.
Were you guys drinking and it got out of hand and it got physical?
No. Sunday was one of the better days that we have had in quite some time.
Have you ever zipped him up in a suitcase prior?
No.
Last time we talked to you, you had said that you put him in the suitcase.
I flipped him over, and that's where it was.
So pushing up on a suitcase saying, Sarah, 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 I can't breathe.
George has done that in the past before, too, where it's just like he thinks that he's woe is me kind of thing.
That George, she's always, putting up with his whining, apparently, but not that night. And we've seen from that video how he's saying, "Look, I can't breathe," right. And she says, "Oh, that's just George being George." Interesting.
Horrible. It's a horrible video to watch.
Oh, it's brutal. And we notice in the course of that video, there are actually two clips. It is what I'd call face down in one and then face up in the other. And she mentions in that interview that she flipped it over. So there's a question as to when that happened and what impact that might have had on either her ability to understand he was in distress, other than logic. So that's all to play out. The trial begins. Jury selection is next week. I've been told by the court administrator 2 to 3 days for the jury and then up to 2 weeks for the trial itself. So what are your thoughts on the judge? I guess we can throw this out there. The judge ruled that the statements will be coming in. They will not be suppressed. Right decision?
Absolutely the right decision. No, the defense went and first said, obviously she wasn't given Miranda rights on the camera. That was the first issue, right, when the body-worn cameras. But it turns out that the answer from the state was a very short, succinct one. Look, the cops didn't even know there was a body in there at that time that they're called there, and the body-worn cameras are started, as you know. And then the second issue was, she wasn't read her Miranda rights. but she was, and whether she was read the last right from a card, having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us now? And that apparently wasn't read because the officer used an old card. And that's not really the issue, because that's not really the gist of Miranda. Of course, you're asking, having known all these rights, and you start these questions, she starts talking to you. So I think it's absolutely the right decision.
Yeah, that last line on the average Miranda card was really, over the course of time, added just as one extra assurance that the person did understand those rights. But there are many ways to tell whether they understood them as you're reading them off, their body language, audible response, whatever. Anyway, so it's coming in. It's all coming in. And now that she has the battered spouse defense, man, that video, as I've said from the beginning, is what it's all about. Whatever the jury makes of that video is going to be key.
Well, she had told them it was an accident. It was always accident. She's got a new lawyer, and lawyers have to pick up something. And in the suitcase video where George is pleading to be let out of it, she says, "This is, again, for all you've done to me." So now all of a sudden, well, was there something that wasn't probed with her? Was she battered? And the battered spouse defense, it's called in Florida, even if they're not married or whatever. And so now apparently that's going to be the defense, which indicates to me she's going to have to take the stand and maybe also have an expert witness on how a battered spouse reacts over the years, and why she didn't say anything to the police in the interviews that she had or when she called as to what George did to her in the past.
Yeah, no doubt. And the interesting new defense, I'm not sure, I've said before, I don't know if it's a good idea or not. I think accident would have been believable. I mean, it doesn't mean she's going to get out from under. Maybe it's involuntary manslaughter then. But this is kind of a gamble to go with the battered spouse in the hopes that it really gets you off entirely.
All you have before a jury is your credibility. If the jury thinks that they're trying to pull the wool over their eyes or use something that maybe there's another battered spouse on that jury, or somebody knows somebody who's battered, they will hate you. They're willing to go with accident. Things can happen. There could be manslaughter, involuntary, voluntary, and all. But not if they think you're lying to them. So it's going to be very carefully assessed.
Yep. And as I've said before, sometimes the case is won or lost at voir dire, So you get the right
loss in jury selection.
Yep,
And
you get the folks in there.
Good.
Yep. Okay, let's pick up some scraps from YSL, and there's always seemed to be some scraps from YSL. Remember, we talked last time, and we did touch on this with Doug. If you've seen that, if not, take a look at it. There's been a lot of I don't know if I should use the word conspiracy, but remember we talked last time about the potential for Ms. Love to be sending signals to the ADA that was testifying at the time, sprinkles. I got that video. I'm going to watch this video, and then we'll talk about it. It's a couple minutes long. You'll see her move her laptop so that it no longer faces the camera. Listen to the questioning. It's about a potential contact between Lil Woody and another player. And there's a point at which the witness kind of can't quite figure it out. You'll see Ms. Love sort of maneuver on the computer. Is she typing something? Is she moving the mouse to click on something? He actually does one of these. Looks into the laptop that's in front of him. And the question is she sending him something? Is she signaling him something? Let me see if I can find that for you. Because remember last time
we couldn't find it. The sprinkle short, as we call it.
Oh, that's right.
I may have one moment, Judge. I may be. Give me one moment, please. Before I sit down, I do have something that I wanted to jump back to. Remember we talked a little while ago about Mr. Copeland giving a statement about a conversation between he and Garlington the night of the incident?
Yes.
Okay. You recall from listening to Copeland's statement that he references that the night of the incident, he's supposedly at McDonald's and he makes a phone call to Garlington, right?
Yeah. That's right.
And you recall from his statement that Copeland also says that he ended up in a vehicle with Garlington and McMullen. You remember that?
I do.
Okay. Now, looking back again at judging the veracity of the statements people give to you, specifically now Copeland, you were able to determine that at the time when Copeland says that he is in a car with Garlington, that Garlington's phone, or the phone you think is Garlington's phone, is actually calling Copeland's phone at that time. You remember that?
No, I'm not sure. You must be referencing.
Now you can
Mr.
see this is where he
Copeland's
gets a
cell
little
phone call
garbled.
Data records, and there's a phone call at a specific time that somehow occurs at a time when I don't know. Is that what you're talking about?
That is. Let me see if I can break it down anymore. Copeland gives a statement saying that he spoke to Garlington on the night of the incident, right?
Yes.
Copeland gives a statement saying that at some point he's in a vehicle with Mr. Garlington and Mr. Demise McMullen.
There's
True?
Ms. Love
That's
typing
correct.
something.
All right. Looking at the phone records, right, at the time when Copeland says he is in a car with McMullen and Garlington, you actually see phone calls between Garlington's number and Copeland's number when they're supposedly in a car with each other, right?
Well, so first of all, what number are we talking? Would you like me to say which number I believe may have been Demeke and Garlington's?
Sure. Go ahead and tell me what number you're talking about.
It was 404-621-0102. That would have been the pretty much the only number during that immediate aftermath of the homicide with which he was in contact. And there were routed calls. Well, I won't get into that, but
Okay, so the question is, was there some communication going on between Ms. Love and the witness, or was it just coincidence that she was doing something and he needed to look more closely at the screen in front of him because maybe an exhibit was helping him in his testimony? Any thoughts?
Well, Michael, let me just tell you that as you were playing that, I leaned in to try to see what happened. I hit my head on the desk because I was leaning in so far. I think we were almost at that point. Now, I can't tell what happened. It could easily have just been nothing. But, it just was suspicious. Ouch is all I can say now.
Yes, that's a whole different issue. Okay, so one more little note on this YSL thing. There's been so much made of the witnesses, especially former retired Sergeant Gaither, making snide comments under her breath. She's not the only one. Toward the end of the day, the judge, when going through the witnesses with the prosecution, was asking for an update. Where are you on your witnesses? Where are we? What's going on? I want to play for you the moment where that that exchange takes place, and then I'll play for you kind of a highlighted audio version if you miss what the judge says after Prosecutor Love responds as to the number of witnesses they've heard and remaining. Okay, so let me find that. I've set that up. Okay, so let's watch.
Now, from that number.
None.
Huh?
0.
No, they're not.
No, I mean, where are we now on the...
Which number witness we're on from that list?
Approximately.
No, we're in the... Sergeant Burney was 8 or 9 on that list. But
We've done more than 9 witnesses. You've been...
Okay, did you hear it? Did you hear her reaction?
I heard it. I was
Okay,
listening for it.
for those who are not quite sure, let me just help you. Like that.
I'm
going to keep that handy.
How did you do that, Michael?
Well, I just oversampled the audio. I just pulled that audio out and then recorded it again and bumped up the level so that it was easier to hear. And then I pushed in on her to see if we could see her.
Yeah, usually you hear what the defense lawyers are saying. Usually that's how those microphones are set up. Okay,
Right.
but
So,
yeah, I mean,
there's an honest moment.
That's an honest moment. Do you think that the defense attorneys heard that? Do you think anybody else heard that? Or
I don't know.
did you have to be Michael Bryan to do this for us? Oh, good God.
Oh, good God. So anytime, if you say something, that's outrageous, I'm just going to fire that off. So I'm going to keep that handy.
I think we got to call this the "Oh Good God" episode. Did you
Oh,
hear
good
it?
God. Okay, one more thing. We got time for one more thing? Yeah, we got time for one more thing. Okay, just a frightening case out of Kentucky, small town in Kentucky. I think it's Letcher County, where the county sheriff has now been accused of shooting and killing a judge in that same county. A guy that, by all accounts, they were buddies. They'd go out having lunch together. In fact, this sheriff at one point was the bailiff for this judge. But something happened. Something went awry. And there was a confrontation in the judge's quarters. And let me just show you some of the video. It's a little nasty, so there's only bits and pieces of it, but you'll get the feel. So what you heard there, the crying and the wailing really, was the judge's family, because that was played for the first time for the public in the preliminary hearing that just took place the other day. And so this is, there's all kinds of backstory we don't know yet, Linda. It sounds like there was some sort of relationship, legal, physical, I don't know, advisory type position between the judge and this teen daughter of the sheriff. The sheriff said when he was arrested a number of things, but he said, just treat me fair. And he also said they're trying to kidnap my wife and daughter. So what role the judge played in that allegation, what connection there was between the judge and the daughter, because the teenage daughter's phone number was in the judge's phone. Right. And if you saw the whole video, you would see the suspect, sheriff, ask for and look at the judge's phone. Right. And in doing so, he apparently then realizes his daughter's number is in there. Why is that important, other than helping us understand exactly what this is all about? It may go to mitigating any sort of top murder charge if whatever he saw pushed him over the top, and kind of triggered some passion that would. In Kentucky, it's weird. They have a whole weird way of looking at murder. It's not like murder one, murder two, et cetera, et cetera. They have this, emotional disturbance mitigating factor. And if what he saw on that phone somehow led to an emotional disturbance, then he's looking at it more of a manslaughter type charge. So all of these things are in play. We don't know where we are yet. Yeah, and we don't know why the judge had the daughter's phone number on. Obviously, there had been a relationship, as you said, with the bailiff, a young daughter, and that was apparently what pushed him over, as we see it. But there may be some other. So was it a relationship, or was it in the sheriff's mind? That, when he starts saying they're trying to kidnap my wife and daughter, it sounds like maybe you have some emotional disturbance, that you're paranoid, you're perceiving things wrong. But then again, maybe he wasn't, because there is a backstory to the sheriff, isn't there, Michael? Well, there is the civil suit was filed, and I'm not sure how these relate. I really don't. I'm missing the connection. But there was a civil suit filed by a woman that was raped and sodomized in the judge's chambers. That just happened to be the location. The judge was not there at the time. And the allegations against the sheriff, the one now charged in the death of the judge, was that he let his deputy commit these sexual assaults. And so therefore the suit names him as the employer, the person with control over the younger and lesser employee. I'm not sure how that all fits. I don't know either yet. I don't know. I think the defense attorney is going to be only going to find out whether there's a trial, whether there's a plea, how this fits. What was horrible is the sheriff is calling help. I mean, not the sheriff, the judge is calling help because he's in his chambers and there's people right next door. So why would the sheriff go kill him? Do it at that moment with people next door? It all doesn't make sense. So there has to be something more here, I think, Michael. Yeah, and he walks out. The sheriff walks out basically into the arms of other sheriff deputies and turns himself in. That's what he says. Just to treat me right. A couple of theories on the teenage daughter's name and number in his phone and the judge's phone. Obviously, because we're used to covering scandalous cases, you think some sort of relationship on a physical level. But it also could be that the judge was advising her and maybe the wife, because her name only comes up when the sheriff mentions it. Right. We don't hear audio from what happens in the judge's chambers. But maybe the judge is giving advice to the daughter and the wife because there's some issue with abuse or mistreatment by the sheriff to his family members. I mean, that's possible. We don't know. There is that video.
Or mental deterioration that they're seeing, and they're looking for advice from the judge who he was the bailiff for.
Right. Maybe how do we get out of this? How do we protect ourselves? But then there is that video, and I don't remember the date, not long before this incident, where the sheriff is in his cop car with his daughter in the back seat in an orange T-shirt, almost like an inmate, and they are lip syncing to "I Shot the Sheriff." So not only is that weirdly ironic, but it sounds like they had a decent relationship, the sheriff, dad, teenage daughter. So it's a fascinating case. It's heartbreaking. This really tiny community. It hits a community that size hard because everybody knows everybody.
And it hits those family members hard too, no matter what side you're on. This is a brutal, brutal case to watch. And if there's whatever happened, we're going to be covering here on Justice Served TV.
All right. On that cheerful note, I think we'll wrap it up and get back at it. We've got more stuff coming up very soon.
And your questions.
Ashley Merchant. She's coming up in a couple of days. So stand by for that. And yes, always like, share, and subscribe. I beat you to it.
And send all your questions to us. We'll try to answer them on our next question and answer next Wednesday when you'll see us on Justice Served TV Live.
Yep. And try to do the right thing.